For further analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram Managing Editor Mohamed Ezz Eldin. Good evening to you, sir, or good afternoon, and welcome to Q News. Now, let me start by asking, what does Israel's interception of the global smooth flotilla reveal about the legality of its blockade on Gaza under the international maritime law?
Very beginning, thank you very much for Q News for inviting me for this wonderful dialogue, and congratulations for the first anniversary of the broadcast of the channel. Definitely Israel is combating the figures. The Sumud flotilla is a symbol of resistance and providing assistance and help and humanitarian aid to Gaza, but Israel is foiling any attempts to gather the efforts to support and to relieve the consequences of the genocide and the lack of assistance to Gaza Strip through the different ports. Israel is allowing only, since the re-establishment of the delivery of assistance, only allowing 10% of the assistance that is needed by the Gaza. There is a need of more than 600 trucks a day. Israel only allows a few number of trucks during the Thursday and Friday. So the auditing and monitoring, Israel is returning trucks back toward Karm Abu Salim. Then Israel is returning and pushing back the other trucks, and it prolongs the time for monitoring and auditing in order to ensure the continuation of the genocide and starvation war against Gaza. The flotilla of Sumud is another attempt by the civil society and international society in order to raise their voice to the whole international community after they did, most importantly, UN agencies, considering that what is done by Israel is a genocide war, and it uses the weapon of starvation against innocent civilians in Gaza Strip.
Right. How might Israel's actions, including drone intimidation, detentions, and alleged, or rather the piracy, or the so-called and described as piracy, affect its diplomatic standing and expose it to legal consequences?
Israel occupation is facing its worst situations since the 70s. There is a back from the international community. Israel's practices facilitate the repulsion by its allies, most importantly U.S. The U.S. plan and the proposal by Trump is forced on Israel, despite of what is alleged that Israel is the 51st state of the United States of America, but the practices and actions of the extremist government representative of Israel is embarrassing U.S. government, not only participating in the confusion and distorting the foreign policy of Israel, but also it has adverse consequences and negative impacts on the image toward its main ally, USA, and any country supports Israel in this phase. So the consensus of the international community and the European states and the role that recognize of the two-state solution and a Palestinian state as an independent state calling for it to stop the genocide still is an adverse impact and a consequence which is very prominent against the Israeli extremist government. Those representatives who only care for their positions and titles, and they continue the occupation of the lands, imposing military force on the ground that will not be useful with these matters in view of the refusal of the international community that we see increasing. Even the confused and tensioned relations with the main partner, USA.
Now, what message did the interception send to civil society missions who are wanting or who are attempting to break the blockade and or so as to deliver the humanitarian aid into Gaza?
Without a doubt, the use of violence, which is unjustified against civilians and against international activists that have no arms and they don't belong to any, especially the Palestinian people, is an attempt to terrorize the international community in order to prevent the recurrence of these flotillas and the campaigns, or to do any initiatives for the benefit of Palestine by the international community, whether real actions like this flotilla or the other electronic initiatives that is started to increase in the cyber arena of the international community. In addition to this, is a message that the Palestinian people face a genocide by the occupation army, and such international media has changed its position after supporting Israel or getting away from mentioning the atrocities of Israel. But the current image is very clear. Israel is trying to terrorize the international community. Also, it is trying to confuse and stop and hinder any international initiatives or campaigns. And they are known for not respecting international treaties or agreements. So the delay of ceasefire, especially the attempt to affect adversely and to change the Trump proposed plan for the ceasefire, is the main objective of the current government in Israel and the Israeli army and against the Palestinian people.
Now, preventing the flotilla from reaching Gaza, how far does it exacerbate the already catastrophic humanitarian crisis, including definitely hunger, medical shortage? We are seeing lots going on the ground in the Palestinian territories.
What we see and witnessing all on the cameras and TVs and social media, the occupation army of Israel is sieging and imposing a blockade against Palestinian people, the innocent civilians, in addition to the continued atrocities against safe havens, especially that we see the catastrophic logistic situation against the assistances provided by Egypt toward the Karm Abu Salim crossing, and not allowing but only margin amount because of the inspections imposed on these assistances, allowing only the least rate of assistances, despite the role which is very big by Egypt at the diplomatic and logistic level to deliver the assistances. But there is strange keenness by Israel and the occupation army of Israel to resist and stop any international attempt, the same as happened with the Sumud flotilla. And the use of violence also is one of the major tools by Israel. Interception of the flotillas and the vessels in the international waters to break. This is a break of the international laws and maritime laws.
Now, the detention of more than 450 activists, definitely including the high-profile figures like Greta Thunberg, how did that shift global public opinion or show the real image and increase the international pressure if it happens on Israel?
To second what you mentioned, this matter, that means that Israel does not only respect the cause, but also does not respect the international high-profile figures by any way. So, consequently, there is a resistance by Israel to resist and to fail any attempt to help the Palestinian people and to deliver the assistances by any way. And even these peaceful, symbolic initiatives that are done by the international community is resisted by Israel. And this is against an insult against famous figures and an insult toward the international laws and norms in order to continue their genocide war against Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. This matter is done by Israel systematically, and the non-respect of the international figures is not a new matter to Israel. There is killing of journalists, killing against international activists, as happened with the U.S. Journalist several years ago in one of the setups by the Israeli loaders during the destruction and destroying of the territories and buildings in the West Bank.
Right. What role can third-party states like Cyprus, for instance, play when vessels seek refuge during such missions? And how might their actions shape future humanitarian efforts through the sea?
Like to emphasize that the international community has sympathy with the Palestinian cause and with the stop of the genocide war. Any attempts or any efforts in order to support and provide any assistance to the Sumud and Freedom Flotilla or any facilitations will be a step forward in order to relieve the burden on the international activists in order to support their efforts to deliver their message to the international community first, then also to provide any help to show the real image of the atrocities of Israel against the Palestinian people in Gaza and their attempts to prevent any delivery of assistances or humanitarian aids, and to show that there is a possibility for other countries, regardless of the obstinance of Israel, that the international community can provide any help to the Palestinian cause or to provide the least amount of support to international activists or even to the official campaigns and official initiatives, in addition to continuing to impose isolation politically against Israel and to have any and to cut any relations with the economic relations with Israel. For example, to stop exporting of weapons that are used against the innocent civilians in Gaza.
Right, that was Mr. Mohamed Ezz Eldin from Cairo, Al-Ahram, Managing Editor. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News.